Stein? Here. Mr. Chapman? Here. Mr. Holmberg?
There was a
Here.
Awesome.
Thank you. And Alder DePooler and Mr. Grice are excused.
All right. Item 3 is we need a motion for approval of minutes from the February 23rd, 2026 meeting.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any corrections? Chris?
Thanks. It wasn't mentioned strong enough for me on the minutes, and it's a really important detail for the parkland at the, I don't remember what we call it, Steve Dorn's development. And the issue is that we, in our ordinance, they can dedicate land or they can spend money in lieu of the land. In this case, he's dedicating land. I asked very specifically, is that for a in lieu of fee, or are you dedicating and paying full fees on all units? And he responded really clearly that the land was being dedicated to the city without consideration of the lieu of fees, which allowed us to consider it for green space on his project, which we did, at which point he meets his green space requirements. So I think it's kind of a critical element, and we don't want to go back and in the future when he's doing his in lieu of fees, say, oh no, but I dedicated that part, so I get credit for that.
Got that. Thank you, Chris.
Good catch.
Did I make that clear enough? It's clear in my mind.
It's
Yes.
clear in my mind as well.
Okay, thanks. It's an important point that'll come back later.
Yep. All right. Any other edits or corrections?
I had a question. These meeting minutes were written in a different way than previous ones. They didn't specifically call out members of the commission, like Ms. Fox stated this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were all just generic plan commission. Is that purposeful, or was that just a different person was writing them?
So it is being written. These are being written by the new city planner. He's done a few of these though. I think some of that is synthesizing discussion rather than sort of per person. But I can certainly relay that feedback to kind of get some more specificity.
I don't know if it was a new.
Not a directive. Right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So-
Well, I was just going to say, on the school board, we were advised by an attorney not to use individual names and individual quotations because it gives more weight sometimes to certain comments, and so we never did this. Well, we didn't have a lot of detail anyway, but when I took minutes at committee meetings and stuff, they were more like this, where general points that were raised and discussion was in there, but that way nothing gets emphasized more than anything else. Not necessarily because of who said it, but what gets picked up and how it's, so I don't know, that was his legal advice, so I don't know if we've ever gotten that, but I kind of like this. If we feel
It reads
like
easier.
it reads easier, and if we feel like it's capturing the conversation, which is the point. I mean, you just want to know, you really just want a summary of what points were raised.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Opposed? All right, minutes have been approved as edited. There's no change in the order of business tonight. Is there anybody here that wishes to appear on an item that is not on the agenda? Everybody in the room is here for an item that's on the agenda. Doug, do we have anybody online?
I think everybody I see online, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe everybody is associated with an application.
All right.
Some thumbs up.
So we will close the appearance section, move on to 6A, which is a public hearing on the request by Crash Champions, represented by, is it Cresa? Cresa, for the approval of a zoning permit and construction of a new collision repair business at 1350 Femrite Drive, and this is case number 227-2025. During the public hearing section, if you can give a brief overview of what you're hoping to do, we then move on to the consideration of action section. And who from Cresa can give a brief overview?
I can definitely do that. Frank Malowski with Crescent.
All right, thank you, Frank. Go for it.
Yeah, so we're proposing a new Crash Champions facility in the address is 1350 Femrite Drive, Monona, Wisconsin. We're looking for your approval and support. If you have any questions on the application, feel free to let me know.
All right. And is there anybody else here to speak during the public hearing section for this item? Seeing none in the room, any online?
A couple other folks representing the project, but I think
Nobody
I'm
from the
not
general
seeing
public?
any. No.
Okay. We can close that item, move on to the consideration of action on the request by Crash Champions, represented by Cressa, for approval of the zoning permit for the construction of a new collision repair business at 1350 Femrite Drive, case number 227-2025. Doug?
Thank you. So as mentioned, the request here is zoning permit for a new collision repair store. The applicant has over 600 locations across the United States. The proposed building would include repair bays, paint booths, customer reception, office space, and vehicle storage, and will be approximately 15,000 square feet in size. Property in question, 1350 Femrite Drive, is located within the Community Design District, and the zoning permit is required for the new construction as proposed. This is also located within redevelopment area number 6, created by the Community Development Authority and approved by council in 2010. Because this is within the TID, the Community Development Authority and council must also authorize this. This is actually on the CDA agenda for tomorrow night, and goals of TID 6 are to promote redevelopment of the area, promote further investment from property owners. This application came through for a pre-hearing back in December of last year, and the Commission was generally supportive of the proposed use. There was some discussion of the architecture, specifically the eastern facade facing or closest to Stoughton Road, as well as the discussion of sidewalks and site landscaping. The land use for the Community Design District description shall include a compatible mix of residential, commercial, industrial, or open space uses, realizing the goals of the comprehensive plan. The current and future land use map identifies this as a commercial use, and that is defined as land used for retail, service, commercial, and office uses. And generally, the Commission was supportive of this. The parcel has been vacant since about 2010 or 2011, most recently used as a Wisconsin DNR research center, beginning in 1990. Site design and circulation, the applicant proposes a new curb cut near the north side of the site, out onto Copps Avenue, with a 24-foot drive lane for vehicle circulation. Possible consideration of some directional signage here, just given kind of operations, directing folks, especially visitors, where the customer parking is versus maybe where some of the operational elements are. Potential discussion of deliveries, trash pickup, vehicle drop-off as well. Building on previous discussion pre-hearing as well is the possible extension of a sidewalk. This is present south of the proposed site, which would provide that pedestrian connection between Femrite, the Merida Clinic, and East Broadway. Given the pickup drop-off nature of the business, that might be a consideration here, especially the connectivity with the recently added Madison Metro service. A certified survey map was approved for this site, and that was redistributing the 40-foot of linear of width that was sort of closest to the property line on the western side. That has been approved but not yet recorded, so the Commission may choose to discuss their preference, and if that should be recorded prior to building permits being approved. For parking, standards for automotive sales, service, and repair required to provide a minimum of 4 spaces plus 1 additional space for each 500 square feet of floor area over the first 1,000. The applicant proposes a total of 53 parking stalls, including 2 which are ADA, and they exceed the code requirements of 32. It is noted that some of those are within the fence and most likely more for operational purposes, but there does appear to be ample parking in the front of the building for visitors. Expected customers are about 15 to 25 per day, with peak traffic in the morning and early afternoon, also with 12 to 15 employees. So the building itself is 15,000 square feet in footprint, 25 feet tall, 1-story building with brick, steel, and glass for a modern aesthetic. The applicant did provide a materials board. We have samples over there in front, and so include samples of the materials to be put forward. There has been an increase in the brick since the pre-hearing at the northeast corner, sacrificing some of the metal panel, as well as increased brick along the eastern elevation. Additionally, there's another sign as well on the eastern facade based on Commission feedback. One change noted between the pre-hearing and the formal consideration is the screening of rooftop units. City ordinance does require that these should be screened in design harmonious to the building, so just something for consideration there. And then the fencing of the dumpsters, which is in the northeast corner of the site, is to match the PVC vinyl fence, which is 6 feet in height. Again, the vinyl fencing will be continuing around the back of the building, creating a secure environment for the business, but also screening the business as well, some of the vehicles. Hours of operation, 8 to 5 p.m., 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. No operation over the weekend. Full stormwater plans were submitted, and they were reviewed by Darren Pope and Vierbecker. We have him on the line, and I'll pass to him in just a second. A photometric plan was submitted, total of 11 fixtures, 7 pole mounted with a 30-foot mounting height, as well as 4 wall mounted at 18 feet around the building. This meets city standards for no trespass at the property line of greater than 3 foot candles, but it does look to be higher than typical, so the commission may choose to discuss if the hours will be limited or if these are intended to be 24 hours, possibly for security for the site. Landscaping plans show that 33.9% of the site will be impervious space. I'm sorry, that should say pervious in the staff report, which meets the city requirement of 30%. It is noted, though, that there are several mature canopy trees on the site right now, so it may be discussed if some of these could be relocated or saved as part of this. The landscaping points, the proposed plan exactly meets that. It's based on the number of parking stalls, 795 points, but it does appear there's a discrepancy in the schedule that was submitted and the landscaping points listed, so maybe some additional feedback there. Also, there was some discussion with the previous use that came through for this site of possibly extending the native seating closer to Stoughton Road, which would mimic that of Merida, and that may be a possibility that is considered again. Signage would need to return for further review. This was shared with city department heads as well for review and comment, and you'll see feedback from the Public Works project manager as far as it relates to items, general items, utilities, as well as erosion control and stormwater. With all that, staff's recommendation is approval of the zoning permit with the conditions as listed. Thanks.
All right. Anybody?
Should we go to Darren?
Yeah.
Darren, could you give a brief overview of your review letter, please?
Sure, I can do that, Doug.
Thanks.
So, we reviewed the plans for site layout, grading, control, stormwater, and so forth. I didn't have any really major concerns about the site layout or the grading. Did notice that based on the number of parking stalls, I believe that they may be 1 parking stall short of the ADA requirements. They were showing 2, and I believe with 53 parking spaces, they need to provide 3. Also recommending that they add some spot grades to the ADA parking stalls to make sure that the slopes there are graded correctly from the stalls to their accessible route or accessible entrance, I mean to say. And there on the construction note and details, they found a few different notes in details that aren't specific to the project, so I just would encourage that on the second submittal that they would kind of clean those up and make it specific to this project. For utilities, this was previously, there was a building previously there, so the Public Works Department always requests that if they're not going to be using, if the previous sewer and water services weren't abandoned to the city's policies, that they do that, which means taking them out to the main and capping them there. The water main connection that they're proposing in Cops Avenue should be done by a live tap, so that should be added to the plan. And then the pavement patch, the city's policy is to require a 50-foot wide patch centered on the live tap. And then also for the city standards, the sumps and their inlets that they are providing should have a minimum of 18-inch depth. And again, on the utilities plan, just delete any extraneous notes and details that aren't specific to the project. In terms of the erosion control, the city has standardized on the metal framed inlet protection rather than the tight the Wisconsin DOT Type D bag, so we want to see that change. And then for stormwater management, this site was previously developed as a DNR office, and so it is a redevelopment site. They are proposing to use a wet pond to meet the sediment control, and the slant modeling they provided shows it to provide 44%, which meets the ordinance requirement for 40% reduction. The city ordinance does include green infrastructure for redevelopment, and the stormwater report didn't mention that ordinance requirement or how they were going to address that. So that needs to be addressed. Oil and grease removal is required by the city's ordinance, and the report didn't mention how they were going to control oil and grease from the parking lot area. This could be simply done by just putting inlet filters into the inlets that have the grease booms to provide oil and grease removal. We had some comments on the pond design. We recommended they follow the Dane County Erosion Control Stormwater Management Manual for the wet pond design. The side slopes above the permanent pool, we recommend they be 3-to-1 or 4-to-1, I'm sorry, they're shown at 3-to-1. And that the minimum pool depth be at least 3 feet is a minimum depth. Right now it's 1.8 is what the report shows. And then also we'd recommend they use a safety shelf or an aquatic shelf in the wet pond as outlined in the Dane County's manual for stormwater management. And then infiltration, the city's ordinance does require for redevelopment now to meet half the new development standards. So I didn't see that addressed in the report either. So that would be something that needs to be addressed. And erosion control and stormwater management permit is yet to be submitted. And then vehicle circulation should be analyzed for the city's largest fire truck. We did provide the auto turn template with our review letter, so the applicant's engineer could complete that if they have auto turn. If not, we can do that on their behalf. So that's all my comments. I did speak with Matthew from Atwell about the comments, and he had mentioned to me that they could make revisions and didn't have any major concerns about meeting those. So that's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? No. All right. Anybody eager to jump in? Rob can already sense that I'm going to call on him first.
Well, since on the heel of Darren's comments, I have a couple of questions regarding your memo. You said that they didn't appear to meet the green infrastructure requirement for redevelopment, and you talked, is that going to be an issue? Are we talking about changes in pavement types, do you think? And maybe that's a question for the applicant. And then my other question is with the safety shelf and the stormwater pond, if that's going to impact the footprint, because it looks like there isn't a lot of footprint to work with there currently, and that might be regraded, it sounds like, from a 3-to-1 to a 4-to-1. So if someone can address those comments, I'd appreciate it.
They will, yeah, I think the infiltration requirement had been overlooked. They're using wet pond, which would not provide infiltration. So they would have to provide some sort of means to do that. Unless they can show through their soil borings that, you know, there's high groundwater or the soils are not conducive to infiltration. For the stormwater pond, in their stormwater report, I noticed that they were using existing conditions that would have the whole site being grass. And in this case, the site was developed previously and had impervious area on it. And the ordinance does allow them to go back to that last developed condition to compare. So I think that that will give them some ability to maybe reduce the pond size down in order to, add the safety shelf. But I guess if you, Justin is here, you might be able to share your thoughts on how you might approach those comments.
Yeah, is now appropriate, or do you want to wait till the end?
Yeah, no, now it's fine.
I echo Darren, what Darren had just said about the pond footprint. I think having the ability to go back and reanalyze our calculations with consideration given to that this was previously developed is certainly going to help us meet the requirements for the side slopes and the safety shelf, I believe. Regarding the pond footprint, I think is going to get smaller, is what my gut tells me. And then on the green infrastructure side, I personally don't know what those impacts are. I'll need to study those with Matt. Matt is our lead engineer on this one to understand how that may or may not impact our design and our pavement type materials. I thought I saw a comment in here in your report, Darren, and talked about oil and grease runoff, and I'm curious, maybe this is a conversation separate from this meeting that we might want to consider as it relates to infiltration, and maybe that's not a strategy that we wise for development like this. But again, if it's a code requirement, we'll find a way to meet it.
All right.
Yeah, your site has several stormwater inlets there that you're collecting the parking lot water and conveying to the pond. Those inlets are, you can put in inlet filters that have oil and grease removal bags or booms, they're called, to do that. So that would be a simple addition to meet that requirement.
Gotcha. Does that answer your question, or do I need to expand on it?
No, I think it answers my question. It tells me that there might be some plan revisions to address some of those comments. But it sounds like administrative approval is probably okay for something like that to avoid a second or another trip here. I can't answer that, but I did have something I noticed with those depressed curbs on the eastern side of the parking lot there where you're moving stormwater into the basin there. Should that be riprap or have any sort of protection or a rain guardian or anything before that goes into that system?
Yes, the answer is yes. I thought, Darren, you had a comment to that effect.
Oh, maybe you did.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had...
Sorry, I guess I didn't mention that
Okay.
in my verbal comments.
I have one other comment. Well, come back to me.
Sure. Mr. Chapman?
Yeah, so I think I had two comments. One is, thank you, Doug, for the roof screen comment. Yet it's hard to understand the scope of the roof screens that potentially could be on this building, particularly over the paint booth. Does the applicant have any sense of scale of how tall those roof screens might be? And also what they're made out of?
The parapet extends to hide the rooftop elements on the elevations. So the building is extending in height, and the brick facade additionally on that opposing side should assist in hiding the rooftop units.
Assist as in partially or
Screen
fully?
entirely.
Entirely,
Yeah.
okay. Even over the paint booth area?
Yes.
Okay, good to know. So we don't need roof screens? Or we have a roof
No.
screen, which is a parapet, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, correct.
All right, it's that tall, okay. Let's make sure of that. And then my only other comment is, and this is a mild recommendation as an architect, these vertical stripes of brick, I'm not a lover of them. And part of the reason is I would suggest removing them and adding a base along the building, same amount of brick or less brick, the base along the building, because when you've got metal panel coming down to grade on a building like this, it's going to just get beat up. And if you took the stripes off and made a lower band, I'll say, it might protect your building in a nicer way. That's all. Other than that, it's fine. Thank you.
Before we move on, Corinne, would you mind grabbing the samples and just pass them along as we're speaking? That way, in case there's questions about the materials, we've already got that cycling around, and then we'll jump in from there. Susan?
I think it's an appropriate use, and some of the questions in it, a good location for it as well. Some of the things that I have marked have been answered. I guess one question was still, another comment that was raised, was the potential for a sidewalk to continue from Meriter. Is that something that you might consider, or I know that it's not an insignificant thing, and I don't know if that would affect the green space that's there, if it was an impervious feature, but in our previous conversation about this piece of property, we had talked about that, and it seems like kind of a logical thing to have there, just because of where the location is, but I don't know whether people think of that, or whether that's something you've thought about. Any thoughts about that?
Frank, is that best answered by you, or?
I guess the first question I would have is, do we have a green space requirement that would affect that matter?
Doug, can you speak to that?
It's right, yeah, right now you're at what, 33%, I think, but so I don't know.
I think yes, I think that's correct. They're at, I believe, per the report, they're at 33.9%, so I think there's some room to give. My recollection from the CSM is that the property line will go right to the road, so there wouldn't be a right-of-way or a buffer or anything like that. So it would impact that, but that there may be some some buffer to give to still maintain that 30%.
And otherwise, I appreciate the use of natural plantings and trees. It looks like there will be some trees between you and Meriter, and I think some of that is useful as well. Somewhat to blend in with the plantings that they have toward 51, but also some taller trees, and it looks like you have that in the plans to some extent. In that area, I know you'll be removing some that are there. There aren't any huge trees there, really, but that would just be another thing to think about with landscaping. And I don't know, so were you saying, though the green space wouldn't be mitigated by landscaping though, so that wouldn't be an issue for the sidewalk? Is that what you're thinking if they?
So my thinking would be that the green space, they're exceeding it right now, so
Right.
they're going to
Somewhat.
pulling into that or eating into that a little
So
bit the
it
sidewalk.
would just be close, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That was all I would, the lighting looks good, and it is quite substantial. I assume you plan to stick to the hours that you've set here. Is there any intent to extending hours at some point, or where would the lighting be dimmed? I assume when it's closed, you would need all that lighting on, just in terms of light pollution. An issue for now or not? Or it could be answered.
Yeah, Frank.
Just-
You know, the
Go.
hours are the same across all of our locations. So the only variance in certain markets is 8 to 12 on Saturdays, but we don't have those currently in Wisconsin.
Okay, right. All right. That's all I had. I think it's a good project and appropriate.
And I've just heard lighting come up more than once, and although it meets our expectations by code, is there any question about the lighting? Is that for security purposes, or is there another reason for the lighting?
Yeah, the lighting is for security.
Okay. Rob?
That makes sense.
Since we're on lighting, I just wanted to point out that the photometric plan does not match the site plan. I was trying to look for conflicts with the landscape plan and the light standards, but they don't match. So I don't think it's a big deal, but it's something you should look at to make sure that there's not conflicts.
Will do.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. And Susan, did you have more?
No.
Green?
I agree that this is a great use for the site. I am, with respect to the sidewalk, as I was looking at this, it just didn't, it didn't look like there was a lot of room there.
Yeah.
But, can you bring up the landscaping plan? I think that might be a way to show it. I'm wondering if there would be a way to put in a small extension of the sidewalk to the parking lot with like a crosswalk striping on the parking lot to the sidewalk around the building. That would give that connectivity to the sidewalk without having to have a full sidewalk in front, as Doug pulls that up. So where there's the two in the lower left corner, there's the two, what are COs? I don't remember what the COs are, but have the sidewalk extend a little bit into that corner, right there. And then it could cut over to the building in some way. That could give a little bit of the connectivity to where the bus stop is and that other sidewalk without having it be along the whole frontage. I don't know if that's something to think about or not, but there is public transportation, and if people are waiting, there's the store across the street. So having some pedestrian connectivity might be helpful in that location. My other question is, it's about the color. It's very dark. And I was noticing in the example, the photos that you included in the packet, it has lighter colors in the other photos. So is the company moving to a different color brand scheme, or is there a reason for the black, all black and gray in this location?
The black and gray is our standard prototype colors.
Okay. You have the white showing in the other one. I was just curious if that was something specific that they had requested.
It's more of the sun, probably the actual rendering, right? They're trying to wash in the sun and shadows. So I think it's just the rendering, but most of our renderings show that darker color.
Yeah, it was on your letter that you submitted, where there was a couple of photographs. It was just a lighter.
That's an old, the letter is an older building built 2019, and that picture is from Mokina. That was a test.
Okay.
So the standard, what you're seeing today is the ones that we've been building for the last 4 years.
Okay. Let's see. And then I guess this is just a question, Doug. There was a comment from the Public Works, I think, that there had to be permission to remove trees in a specific part. Why is that?
I believe if it's the ones that I'm thinking about, it looked like there may be tree removal off property, off premise, and so it would be somebody else's property. I think that was the reason that, I think in the demo plan, it showed the tree removal.
I think you're right, yeah. I think you're right, okay.
Yeah, the northeast corner of the site, or just northeast there, I believe there's a couple to be removed.
Okay. No other comments?
Can I comment on that? I think that was simply a drafting mistake,
Okay, thank you.
because we're not planning to do any improvements outside of that north property line, so we'll get that corrected on the next set.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chris?
Okay, As I said before, I think the use is fine. I think I also mentioned the applicants are aware that we were very sensitive to it looking like a salvage yard. We used to have salvage yards here in the community. It's dead set against another one. So the first thing I'm talking about is your fence. It looks like a salvage yard fence. It's gray and opaque. You can't see through it, and I think that will give the look of a salvage yard again to this place. I'd like to hear what the rest of the commission feels, but I think this needs to be a chain link, put a chain link, and look like it's open for business, and we're not hiding that back end. Speaking of the back end, I think we need some more landscaping. I mentioned that at your first meeting. It's very visible from Highway 51. And I don't think there's a lot of good landscaping on that east side. In fact, we could get some more on the west side too. I think we need to go above the minimums here for the location it's at. The sidewalk, I think absolutely needs to go in. We've required it of anybody that's redeveloped around here. We required it when Menards redeveloped. We've required it for your neighbor right next to you at the clinic, and you're kind of that nexus between them, but certainly with where you're at. And in fact, Merritt even extended it all the way across the right-of-way, so it's right up to your doorstep, and that going along your frontage, Corrine would then get you, I think it was Corrine, maybe, I think it was Corrine, but it would get you right to where your crosshatch area is coming through there. Now, to do that, you need to adjust your site a little bit. You need to slide that building to the east, because right now you've got your parking lot right on the property line, which we don't allow, and you're grading into the right-of-way with where you brought it up for your entrance and your ADA access, you're grading into the right-of-way, which again, I know Public Works would not be in favor of. So you're going to need to slide it back a little bit. You have room, and create a little buffer between the back of curb and the right-of-way line, and then it'll be fine to put the sidewalk in there. Somebody asked about, will that change green space ratios? It will not, because it's in the right-of-way, it's not on their site, so it will have nothing to do with their green space ratios.
Chris, hang on just a second.
Okay.
Because I think there's a discrepancy in our understanding of there is no right-of-way on that side, and maybe Doug can provide clarity, because there's some of us that are believing that the curb edge is the property edge, and that there is no longer going to be a right-of-way beyond that curb edge.
There is a right-of-way, and the CSM that they're recording creates the right-of-way. Right now it's an easement, but then it will be a right-of-way with the CSM that's recorded prior to this being built. And then the curb face is right up to the property line, which should be grading on the right-of-way where the sidewalk should be. There'd be no reason here, especially as busy as this area is, not to have a sidewalk along the frontage there. This is one of the areas we've targeted for sidewalk in the city.
We're going to pull up the CSM that was submitted and approved, I think, so we can verify this point.
Yeah, CSM would create the right-of-way.
And Doug, you might be the best to interpret it and describe what you
Cox
got.
Avenue dedicated to the public, the 40-foot area there.
And that's,
Yeah, that becomes right-of-way.
But that's the road.
Well, that's not just the road, that's 40 feet from the center line. That goes all the way back to the property line,
That's true.
just like every other parcel there has.
Right to the back of the curb.
No. You mean our curb on our road? No, it goes,
No.
it goes all
Back of the parking lot curb.
I'm sorry?
Parking lot curb.
Yeah, right, well, that's the parking lot curb being right on the new property line. And that's too close, because that is now the property line. Once the CSM's dedicated, that is the property line.
I think we're on the same page. I'm just looking for some sense of agreement on what they just saw up on the screen. Does that look right? To what you were thinking, Rob?
Yes, we're creating a right-of-way off of, that extends the back of curb of the existing roadway, X number of feet that will be included in the right-of-way with the filing of the CSM.
I believe that's true.
Then
It matches our existing right-of-way everywhere else. It's 80-foot right-of-way. I don't remember how wide the road is. I don't know if you know what Darren is at a 46, 48. It's fairly wide, but it's certainly, I think, under 50, so you've got at least 15-foot terraces on both sides.
So this is, to just clarify for everybody, the proposed CSM, the property line previously extended 40 feet into the road, so it was to the center line, and with this, it would be dedicating that 40 feet of width by 235 of length to the public, to the city for right-of-way. So circa probably 15 feet, I would guess, into the site would be dedicated right-of-way.
Okay. Which then gets to Chris' point.
Correct.
The building might need to shift a little bit to allow nothing to be happening in the right of way.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
What else do you have, Chris?
I just started, but I agree with Darren's determination that this can be considered redevelopment versus new development, which certainly gives them a lot more leeway. Looking at this site just in general, without delving totally into the calculations, it seems like a big pond. I suspect they can tighten that up. Darren, a question for you. A lot of applications like this, I'd see a biobasin, for example. It would take care of infiltration, it would take care of oil and grease, and I think it would substantially reduce some of this, give you some pre-cleaning, and may not even need a wet basin to get what they want, but you could comment on that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris, there. That was one of the thoughts that I had shared with Matthew, their engineer, to consider a bioretention basin. If the soils, and I don't remember if we saw a geotechnical report and soil borings, but that would be something that we'd certainly want for the wet pond, if you're doing wet pond, but then also put a bioretention basin to make sure that you've got, restricting groundwater or soils that are going to be a problem. But if you can get 3 feet of engineered soil in there, then you can certainly take care of the oil and grease with that and try to get some sort of underdrain with it.
Yeah, even if we have groundwater problems, they can have a lined biobasin, and I don't think it's required to be 3 feet of soil anymore. I think some applications you get by with 18 inches, you can take care of what you need. And if it is groundwater, then we don't have an infiltration standard. I think you could work with that well. They probably haven't done projects in this area. I think there's cheaper ways that can take care of their water quality issues than perhaps what they've got there, not knowing the area and what works around here. So it would be a suggestion of something they could do. And then a question for you. We're rather unique. We have those 18-inch sumps in all our inlets, and that goes way back to before there was any stormwater requirements around here. We also got a lot of good cleaning, and honestly captures a lot of the initial flush of sediment. Is there in our maintenance agreement we have with our owners, is there a requirement for cleaning these sumps annually?
In the standard maintenance agreement, I
Correct.
believe there is, yes.
Okay, just double check that for me, because it's not something that's standard in a lot of areas. It's economical to do, and it captures the majority of the sediment on the site if they do that. Landscaping, I mentioned, I think there needs to be more landscaping, sidewalk. I think the east elevation still needs work. And before I start with that, I agree with John's comment on that brick. I think if they took that quantity and grounded the building, I think they'd probably get a better effect. And then that would lead me into my next statement. I think for that east elevation, and John, maybe you can chime in on this, but I think the, what do you call it? The mega rib panel that's wraps a little bit, I think if that wrapped the whole back, so you have the grounding down below and then that mega rib panel on back and then your vertical siding in between, I think that would dress up that back end and give it a look where it doesn't look like it's the back of the building. I think it's really important that this doesn't look like the rear of the building. As far as comments on the lighting, typically when we're in a commercial industrial area like this, if they want a little higher lit site, we've had no problem with that because they're not anywhere near residential. And I can understand the owner wanting to keep the site well lit, and I think that's just fine. You had a comment somewhere, Doug, about two-way or one-way circulation. If I were them, I'd want to keep the two-way circulation. I think it works. They've got enough room to do it, and it serves them well for what they're trying to do. That's it. I would like to hear some discussion on that gray opaque fence. To me, that looks like a salvage yard. Thank you.
We can skip straight to Rob. Go back to the beginning.
I'll start. I did have a couple more comments. I agree that I would love to see the landscaping a little bit more robust. I think the selection is limited, but fine, all except for the spirea, I would switch that out. It's not forbidden by the DNR, but it is invasive in certain areas, so I would look for something native in lieu of that. And I would agree that the fencing, we don't want to look at a salvage yard. So.
Are you opposed to the chain link option versus the proposed option? Or you don't have a preference?
Well, there's two options on the plans.
I think it was that.
Right here, yeah. So refresh me, what's the option? Option 1 or 2? Primary or secondary option?
We're going to try to throw it up on the screen too.
I like the Ameristar fence better than chain link or vinyl, frankly.
That's not chain link.
No, that's-
Right, that's their secondary option.
Which is nicer than chain link.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
which is what I would recommend.
No chain link. Okay.
And I'll notice right next to that, to the right, it says no trees where and when possible. We highly disagree with that in our community.
What's it say?
It says landscaping, no trees when possible.
Yeah, we'll count that as a mistype. All right, John, do you have any questions or concerns regarding the fence or option 1 or option 2?
Well, I don't see a chain link fence. I guess I look at it this way. I mean, no, we don't want it to look like a salvage yard, but this is protecting vehicles that have been in crashes.
Mhm.
So if I live next door to this, and I know there aren't any homes that are adjacent to this property, but I think of it, if I live next door, I would not want to see, I would want something that's shielding crashed vehicles. That's just my opinion.
I would agree with that. I think either of those two options are better, and I think you can add landscaping on the fence side too, but yeah, I wouldn't think you'd want chain link for that reason. I don't want to see the cars through there. I mean, I think it's, I don't know, I think that fencing can look decent, and again, putting landscaping behind it masks some of it. If there's icing, there's room to do that.
Corinne?
I feel the same. I don't know how it's Crash Champions. I assume they're crashed up. And that would look more like a salvage yard if you could see it. So I don't have a problem with either of those.
Chris, I'm coming back to you. You're on mute, by the way.
Technologically challenged. I was talking. If we do the primary option, I'm fine, but then it's going to take more landscaping on the backside. So from outside their site, it's softened.
All right. Which I think comes back to that whole landscaping discussion of, hang on, we're kind of at the minimum, needs to be beefed up everywhere, and if whichever fencing option is chosen, additional landscaping to break up that line of fencing is going to be important. either way.
I agree. Well, I'm unmuted if I could. I forgot the one bullet point I had, and that Doug had asked, and yes, the CSM needs to be recorded before they start building.
Thank you.
All right, is anybody willing to make a motion? Chris, go for it.
Okay, I'll move approval with conditions as recommended by staff. Add condition 10 that the sidewalk shall be installed along Cox Avenue by approval by staff. 11, that the fencing type shall be their primary choice. 12, additional landscaping approved by staff. 13, that there's facade, how should I word that? 13, that the facade changes as recommended tonight with final approval by staff. And 14, that we just confirm that the rooftops are indeed screened.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Doug, clarification.
Yes, please. Just a clarification on the suggested condition number 10, the sidewalk along Cops Avenue. A couple different designs of that were discussed tonight. Chris, could you please elaborate on your preference for design on that?
The full sidewalk we do along every other road, the same way Merritt did, the same way the Cops did, so it's just along the full frontage, a foot off the property line.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is the second fine with that? All right. Any other clarifications, questions? Chris?
If I were the applicant, the one I'm scratching my head of the most right now is the sod. And I left that a little open. I had a strong suggestion for that. I can't remember the name of that stuff, but the horizontal banding on top and the brick on the bottom. And what we typically do is work with Doug on that. And if you two come to an impasse, say, no, Doug says that's not my understanding, you want to do something different, you can always come back to the commission. But I'm assuming that you and Doug can work something out where Doug's comfortable with what the discussion was tonight.
Doug's nodding yes. How about from the applicant? Is there anything confusing or any questions that you have based on what you heard as the motion before you?
I understand the motion, the sidewalk was mentioned, that I understand the fencing, the landscaping, the sod changes. We'll work with Doug to make sure we get a amenable result on that. So yes, I understand it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kareem?
I was just thinking about the fence. Is one of those the fence color on the material board?
Maybe.
I didn't think so. Those were the different.
It would just be black.
That's cardboard.
Oh.
Yeah.
To not scratch
It would
the
just
paint.
be. Would it just be black, or is it gonna be gray, or I guess just whatever work on that with
Coastal. It's the picture that's in there is coastal gray.
coastal gray. Okay.
Thank you.
So it's a standard residential vinyl fence.
Okay.
Where's the nearest coast?
What's that? No. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Doesn't sound like there's any confusion regarding the motion that's on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
We can move on to new business, which is 7A is a public hearing on the request by Gunderson Funeral Home represented by Iconia. I think I have it right. Iconica. For approval of a zoning permit for the building modifications at 5203 Monona Drive. This is case number 23-2026. And whoever comes up to kick it off, make sure you're out of mic. State who you are, and you can run us through what it is that you're hoping to do.
Awesome. Yeah. So hi, my name is Devin Engel. I'm a licensed architect and design project manager at Iconica. I'm here representing Matt and Pete Gunderson for Gunderson Funeral Homes. So basically, I'll give you a brief project overview. So tonight, we're bringing forth a proposal to do a cooler addition on the backside of Gunderson Funeral Home in Monona. That's at 5203 Monona Drive. Along with relocating their existing trash enclosure and then any necessary screening elements that go along with that. I will just give a brief overview of the site plan. So there was one change that we have in front of us tonight that you guys aren't seeing. But just when we are finalizing our bid documents with the client, they actually made a conscious effort to not allow any traffic to get through our area of work on that back side of the site anymore. So where it's currently all asphalt impervious surface, due to our area of work digging all of that up, we're not gonna patch it all back in as asphalt. We're gonna leave about 650 square feet as pervious landscaping stone. And that'll improve the current site conditions, which don't meet current ordinances for pervious surface on site, as well as just improving water runoff and stuff on.
Do you have a drawing of that?
I do, yeah. So we have these all right here, and I'll just pass them out.
Name a page, we'll hopefully get to it.
Yeah, A100. It's on the site plan, A100.
Chris, you're missing out. We're actually getting full plans here.
I'm going to ask a question because it must be me being technologically challenged, but I don't see any picture of you guys talking anything. The only thing I ever see, Doug, is when you share your screen. Otherwise, other than that, I see Monona comment.
We'll take a peek at that and see what's up on our end.
Yeah, when you talk, Brian, Monona Community Media comes up as a blank screen.
Okay, well, we're checking with them right now to see if we can figure that out.
Do the screen share.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
That
If
was
you
the
want
one
to
that-
share your screen, I can.
At 3 o'clock today. Is that the right one?
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Chris, I'm going to screen share so you can see the plans while we work on the video as well.
You said they were technical. I don't know.
That's what
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I was thinking it was this, okay.
Picturing an overhead projector kind of thing.
We had one not too long ago.
See a camera. There's another.
So the difference that I see between the 100 that we got and what you're showing is that directly south of the addition, there is no piece of asphalt or concrete or pavement. And
Correct,
1%.
yeah.
And you're adding it, or it's?
No, it's currently all asphalt,
Got
that
it.
whole, so if you look at A900, the last sheet that I handed out, that shows the existing conditions, and you can see it's,
Okay.
the existing trash enclosure, it's all asphalt. So since we're gonna dig it all up, and he doesn't wanna allow vehicular access, why patch asphalt back in when we don't have to? So.
Okay.
I like it, especially when it's a sea of asphalt right now. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Baking asphalt, yeah.
it's a good change.
Yeah, so then I guess just continuing on, if you look at A200, the basement plan in the lower left corner, that's our floor plan for this. So that cooler addition would be added on to the prep room, which will just basically help them with their current and future operations on site as they continue to grow into the future. And then you can see that we moved the trash enclosure to the left. The trash was already coming around that side of the building. We basically just moved it to the left and made it easier for them to access. And then I did confirm the current dumpster enclosure sizes, and that minimum trash enclosure size is gonna work with what they have on site. And then I guess the last thing I'll point out is just on A301, looking at our exterior design. So we have the cooler addition, that's roughly 7'8" tall. And then we're gonna put an 8-foot tall privacy fence. We're proposing Trex seclusions fencing. So it's actually a combination of galvanized steel structure with the composite wood fence that you see in the picture at the top of the page. Currently, I'm proposing woodland brown. And then as far as the trash enclosure goes, just because of the amount of use and abuse that we see those enclosures get, we're gonna build it out of our standard. We're gonna use galvanized steel for the doors and then cedar planks, and we would paint it to match that woodland brown color.
And if there's nobody else here for the public hearing section, we can close that item and move on to item 7B, which is consideration of action by the request of Gunderson Funeral Home represented by Iconia for approval of the zoning permit for building modifications at 5203 Monona Drive, case number 23-2026. Doug.
Thank you. So yes, zoning permit application here for the exterior construction. That includes the cooler addition as well as the relocation and widening of the dumpster enclosure. This is 5203 Monona Drive, Gunderson Funeral Home. So property here is located within the retail business district, and the zoning permit is required for the new construction. The comprehensive plan, current and future land use maps have this as commercial use, and the proposed construction supports the comprehensive plan vision for the site. The composite wood fence surrounding the cooler addition would be 8 foot tall and would fully screen that because the cooler is 7.5 feet. And then the 6 foot fence around the dumpster enclosure, reorienting that to help with operations as well. Just noting here, it is typical that fences within the city not exceed 6 feet in height without special consideration from the Plan Commission. One thing, of course, to consider here would be that this does completely screen that, so the aesthetic may be preferable versus having a shorter fence with the top of the cooler still remaining over the top. As part of the improvements, the stainless steel cooler is proposed to be covered with a white TPO roof membrane for the cooler addition, and a new concrete retaining wall would also be added to the southern edge of the building to set the cooler addition flat. And also to facilitate drainage. As mentioned this evening, there's actually an increase here in pervious surface. Mulch or stone landscaping would be added as well, just to help with some of those things. And just calling out the ordinance standards that we have for operational use performance, that receptacles for refuse, recyclables, and sort of jumping ahead here, other mechanical equipment should be screened from view with materials and landscaping complementary and harmonious. Which the applicants put forward that those elements have been considered as part of their request. No changes to parking or other elements of this, and the trash pickup would also remain unchanged, just operations here being a little easier. Collection will continue to remain Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Plans were shared with City Department Head for review and comments. No comments were received, and recommendation is approval with the conditions as listed. Thanks.
All right. Mr. Patton.
Sure. I have 3 comments or questions. On A100, on either A100, it appears as though the cooler is going to be within an existing electrical easement?
Yeah, okay, sorry, I actually meant to touch base on that. So there is an existing 20-foot electrical easement on site, and there's a buried electrical line that's currently in the way. I've already contacted MG&E, and they've given us verbal agreement that they're going to release that to us, given that the client has that moved by MG&E at the client's expense.
Okay.
So
All right. So you're working
Matt's
on that.
Matt's given us the green light to engage MG&E and get that in their queue, so that we can get that moved, because we really can't move forward with our construction until they move their line out of our way. So,
Okay.
yes. Sorry, I didn't mention that earlier.
No problem. The second question is in regards to the fence and the cooler relationship. On A400, there's some sections.
Yeah, I didn't include.
There seems to be this
city.
awkward gap between the fence and the cooler, and that where leaves could collect and all that kind
Right.
of stuff. And I'm surprised that the cooler company doesn't make for when it gets put in a situation like this, like a cladding.
Sure, and they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That currently what I have called out is just the stainless steel cooler,
Yep.
because that is like engineer or exterior grade.
Yep.
But one of the cooler suppliers we reached out to for a bid, they had included like a plastic colored panel. So that it essentially was a wash for price.
Okay.
So we could look at that option if that's something you wanted to.
I would assume it would save you footings for a fence and all that kind of stuff, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, the client actually prefers that 8-foot privacy fence. They
Okay.
don't, they want to screen all
All right,
activities in the
that's fine.
back, yeah.
Okay. And then the third one is, the cooler is like 500 square feet, 10 by 50. How are we dealing with water? It looks like it's just sheet draining off the cooler.
Correct. So the part of that, that weird gap that you talked
Yeah.
about and why I have that
Yeah.
as landscaping stone is because the water will just sheet drain off of the cooler there. So it's a single pitch, at least half inch or
Yeah.
quarter inch, and then it'll just basically go drain off into the landscaping stones.
So like a French drain almost, or?
Yeah, I mean, we won't put any storm drain underneath the ground, but we will dig down, leave it pervious, and cover it with landscaping stone. So
Yeah,
the water will infiltrate into the ground.
We hope,
Right.
yeah. I mean, and if I live in one of these adjoining homes, I guess that's my concern.
No.
The section that you have on A400 shows that like the slope goes down towards the homes.
And it
If there's
does.
nothing
There's an
taking the water
existing
in there.
sewer, like, that
Between-
runs, yeah, it actually runs
Okay.
right there
Yeah.
along the property
With-
line.
Yeah,
the
in
manhole.
in the parking lot
Okay,
next to
all right,
us,
all right.
sort
Just
of
bringing
there,
it
they
up.
have a drain right there.
Okay.
That's
So
where I would.
part
You
of
guys don't want that
the,
problem.
Yeah.
Very valid. The best part is it's on the south side, so it doesn't get as much ice
Okay.
buildup, but you're exactly right. Currently, it runs on the asphalt.
Okay, those are my 3 comments, thanks.
yeah, so if you look at 1A200, it calls out that the concrete retaining wall.
Yeah.
It's
So I see
it's
that.
actually 35 feet. It's only holding back about 6 inches at the top end.
Yep.
But the whole reason we actually put that in is because there is a lot of drainage happening back
Okay,
there.
all right.
And we want to leave all the grades the same.
All right, you've
So
said
we flattened it where we needed to, and we put a retaining wall to leave the rest
Okay,
untouched.
none of us want a problem.
Exactly,
I'm bringing it up.
yes.
All right.
Wonderful, thank you. Susan?
I think it all looks good, and I appreciate those comments and responses. I think the 8-foot fence is appropriate around the cooler. I think that makes sense to me, and I also do appreciate having the fence there as opposed to just a nicer looking cooler. I think that is appropriate to have a fence, so I appreciate that as well. And otherwise, comments, I agree. It's fine.
Great.
I don't have any questions, but I'm wondering, Doug, do you think we'll need a finding of fact for condition 2 to explain why? Because I agree that the fence should be as tall as it's proposed to be. Do you think we're going to need a finding to help explain that condition?
I would suggest a couple thoughts. Firstly, I would clarify if the commission is comfortable and the maker and second of the motion that the plans be referenced as those shared tonight, obviously that they had updated. Okay. So I think calling that out, and if I may suggest, I'd also just highlight maybe a condition or possibly a finding of fact, just that these be screened, these elements be screened, and that can probably be addressed in the plans. I think the fact that this is the fence is 6 inches taller, probably that condition may almost be a little duplicative. I think the intent of that was the white TPO just with the excessive glare. So I think that's probably a couple ways to address it, but referencing the plans I think will be important just so we know which ones exactly we're looking at, because just a couple elements which I think honestly have addressed some concerns have been brought forward. So.
Okay. I guess that does raise one question. You said it's on the south side and it is white and the fence is intended to prevent glare, but the building that's next to it is up a little bit. So I can't remember if there's windows on that side, on the north side of that building overlooking your property.
That would be,
So would the glare from the cooler be a problem to
I don't know if it
those?
was, I think when we were talking about it, intention wasn't made, especially on like the glare reflection of it. It was just really overall entirely not kind of obstructing the view of everything and just kind of protecting the privacy.
Okay.
So I guess just, overall, if we look at A100 and we know the sun is coming here and going like this, it's always pointing this way. It's actually really hard for that glare to ever bounce back towards that building. Our existing building is EFIS, so it's not going to reflect any light off of it. So if the sun's pointing this way and hitting our roof, it's really going to bounce into our own building
Okay.
and not around at everything else,
Okay, that's good
if that makes
clarification.
sense.
Chris?
Okay, couple questions. You keep saying wood composite fence. Is this not Trex? Is it not, Trex material is not wood, correct?
Actually, it is considered a composite wood material, is what Trex is called architecturally, yes.
Okay, it's just getting me because it's not truly wood, it's plastic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like sawdust with glue and all kinds of other
Yeah, I know.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm referring to Trex.
Yeah. No, I know what Trex is. I just, when you said composite wood, and I thought there may be some wood, stringers on there or something, I don't know.
I guess we use that architecturally because sometimes there's like cement composite materials versus wood composite. That's the
See,
differentiation.
cement, I understand. Okay, a comment. Typically on a project like this, our ordinance says that we need to have the screening match the building materials, which of course this doesn't. We allowed fencing around the dumpster years ago when Gunnarson's came in because basically nobody could see it except for them. They own the building just to the south, so it's their own view they're looking at. And I would consider this, when I look at the site plan, it's pretty hard. There's some residences there to the south, but they're quite far away. So I would think we would have a finding of fact that talks about it, but the fact that there's no real view, certainly none from Monona Drive or any major roads, but even from those homes are a long ways away, which is why we're allowing a fence like this versus building materials. And then, as far as notifying the fact, it would be that we're actually requiring this 8 foot because we want it to be fully screened.
All right. Rod?
My only comment is about the fence, and then just so you're aware that I think our code, the finished side, because I'm guessing this has a one finished side.
No.
It's a 2
Yeah,
fence.
yeah.
Okay, never mind. I have no comment.
Both sides will look just as good, yeah.
All right. Is there someone willing to make a motion? Chris?
Move approval with finding of fact number 1 that composite fencing is being allowed as a screening material because it's not visible from any major view that the owner doesn't control. And number 2, that the commission is requiring an 8 foot fence to fully screen the proposed cooler. Condition 1 and 2 is written by staff, and condition 3 that tonight's approval is based on the plans presented at the meeting.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. You can take your pick. Any other questions or comments regarding the motion? Any questions from the applicant before we move on? All right. Everything sounds clear. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to item 7C, which is a public hearing on the request by Walter Wayne Development, represented by Ryan Signs Incorporated, for approval of a sign permit for new wall signs at 5103 Monona Drive, and this is case number S4 2026. And who wants to speak first?
Hi all,
Yeah.
Randy Christensen with Walter Wayne Development. We're here before you tonight to present exterior signage for the building that's going up, just up the street on the drive. So I brought Bridget from Ryan Signs along. She's the one who submitted the application for the signage. And we've got, why don't you run through, Bridget, what you want to propose, and then we've got some comments, or we're available for questions.
So Mira is on Monona Drive, and they are very close to Monona Drive. So we are asking for 2 sets of reverse channel letters, which are backlit letters that when illuminate sort of present a halo illumination. They're very classy and they're very subtle ways to illuminate building signage. Our south elevation is technically not allowed by code because it does not face a street. It is right next door to another commercial property. So we're asking for an exception for that one. The north elevation is compliant and is sized, I believe, about 12 square feet, where the south elevation is about 33 square feet. Combined total, the signage is under what would otherwise be allowed. The building development is allowed 150 square feet. We're at about 46 total. This building does not really present itself because of how close we're set back from Monona Drive. The building really doesn't present itself to have a monument sign, which would give them the visibility from both directions on Monona Drive. So that's the main reason why we're here asking for the exception for the south elevation wall sign.
All right. If there's nobody else here for the public hearing section, we can close that and move on to item 7D, which is consideration of action. This is on the request by Walter Wayne Development, represented by Ryan Signs Incorporated, for approval of a sign permit for the new wall signs at 5103 Monona Drive, and this is case number S4 2026. Doug.
Thank you. So as mentioned, the request here is looking for the special exception specifically for the southern sign. The signage here would be for the apartment building. Not included within this meeting packet, but also submitted was the Revel heated Pilates. We had that zoning permit come through recently. That is on the eastern facade. That is their entrance facing Monona Drive, and that's just over 5 square feet. And the frontage along there is 83 feet. So even cumulatively with the 3 signs here, the 2 mirrors, as well as the one for the Revel use, this still is considerably below what would otherwise be allowed. The reason for this is that southern facade that is visible from Monona Drive but does not specifically face it. Number of wall signs that are allowed per the city code, 1 for each business on each building facade that abuts a public street frontage. One point here is that the only point of access, I don't believe there is actually an easy access point into Mira, into the apartment building off of Monona Drive, and there actually is an entrance sort of on the southeastern corner, which is on the southern facade. There's a resident access point that you can see, yes.
And that is a true entrance point?
It is.
Yeah. So pedestrian access is still available on that southern facade. So staff recommendation is discussion. If the commission chooses to, suggested approval is included, or conditions of approval with findings of fact are included in the staff report.
Right. Thanks. Susan, you're up first.
I agree with the findings of fact. I think it makes sense in this location. I don't know how else you would, because even putting signage on the road drive part of the building would not help you really. I mean, it makes much more sense to have it on the sides. Mm-hmm. And I think the sizing is fine. I think even though let's see, it was the south-facing side, and the road-facing side was larger. I think it looks appropriate on the building. It seems like it makes sense. So I think the findings of fact that you laid out here and the comments that I've seen them make sense. So.
All right, great.
I like it. As I've been watching it go up, I've also thought that is a big space. So having something on it, I think will look nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have no concerns.
Chris?
I think it's very tastefully done. I like it. I have no issues with it. I also would like to mention that the building's really looking nice. It's a really good-looking building, and it's well done. I do have one question, though. I see Mr. Proctor there. Didn't we plant a pine tree somewhere around there because it was being called Monona Pines? No, what happens to that pine tree?
I'm gonna try to find a spot for it. I appreciate the nudge. Randy?
Yeah, we'll put a pine tree somewhere.
All right. Rob?
I have no issues with it. I think it's appropriate, arguably too small, but.
Yeah. John?
I have a couple comments. I'm okay with the south side. I think the comment, it's like, it's wanting something, it's like the building was planned for it, which obviously wasn't on the other side. I guess my biggest concern with the south side, though, is the renderings that you have show a white sign, and the building is basically white.
Yep. So we will paint the sidewalls to give it contrast.
I think, that's fine. I think you're gonna want more when you
More?
put it up. That's my suggestion.
Darker
that's all.
faces?
Oh, yeah, you want contrast there, I think. That's just my comment. Your rendering makes it look like a medium gray, but it's really not, unless you're gonna paint that, which I don't think you are.
We did talk about that.
Okay.
As I was driving up here, this late this afternoon, you know, the sun hitting that, you can tell it kind of washes it out a little bit. So we did chat about that.
If we make that change, are we able to do that at staff level?
I would just ask if the commission's comfortable
Yeah,
putting that as a condition.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Glad that's coming up right now.
Thank you.
Or we'd see you in 2 weeks.
On the north side, I mean, I'm fine with it. I wouldn't have done it that way. And I'll tell you why. I think the size, I don't think you're gonna get any ROI on the size. And I wondered if you would consider a blade sign that is like a vertical sign or something, that as you're driving up and down Monona, you see it.
On the east
Just a
elevation?
thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that, but I'm not disallowing what you're doing. I'm just saying, I think more people would see it in a different approach.
Could we ask the rest
And-
of the commission what they would think of a blade sign? Because I think our initial thought was that they wouldn't want to see this, that you all wouldn't want to see that second sign. You know, so that's why it's small where it is.
We're pulling up our zoning sign group because blade signs make me twitch, if I remember right.
Yeah.
They're in.
We want your business to be successful.
Exactly.
Whoever's going in
I'm
there.
just trying to balance it up.
Oh, I know, that's why I'm
Yes.
saying that. I don't want
What-
to.
And you don't have room for a monument sign, like you said, so.
East elevation.
All right, Doug, what's it say for blade?
Blade signs are permitted, city staff approval, one for each customer entrance. There are minimum overhang rules, which I think is just clear space for pedestrians. Gooseneck lighting is allowed, 6 square feet total area though, maximum.
It's pretty small.
Well, it's a small sign that's going on the north side.
That's true, it's a small
So,
side.
It's just a comment. You don't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
take it.
No.
No, we appreciate it.
Appreciate the comment.
Yeah.
Did I make the whole loop? I did. Yeah, the only comment I had was, the north side elevation.
Big Chris comment?
We did?
Yeah. Okay.
I think the sign's way too small on the north side.
Well, it's forced though, and the architecture kind of, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We wanted 2 horizontal signs because it was a smaller name. That area with all the windows that are over there and so forth, we just wanted something driving from the north that would say Mira, and obviously something from the south that would say Mira, so people could identify with it. Because you drive past it, I mean, you really can't get anything on the front of it.
Right.
Because you go past it too quickly. So that's the south side.
Yeah.
No, John, I understand your comment. And the other part is, the reason we didn't look at the blade is because of the balconies that overhang there in the front, so forth, so, yeah, it's
Okay.
just, so.
Chris, I see you got your hand up.
Thanks. I just wanted to agree with John. His comment, it looks squeezed in there. I'm fine with the word it is, but his comment, if you made it a vertical sign, put it just behind that large expanse of glass, you could have a larger, more readable sign there in the vertical. But again, I'm good either way.
We're going to pull it up up on the screen so we all have the same understanding of what area you're pointing to.
Yeah.
Might,
Chris, can you see my mouse? Is this the area?
Yes, that would be a great sign area, not quite that big, but you could fit a nice mirror vertical in there.
I think there was some. So the other thought that we had is just the light pollution with the resident to the right of that. You know, so that we were trying to be conscious of all that. I mean, we have done some other projects where you get the light pollution, and it's just, we didn't want to have a sign lit up, and then you're right along that window, and so that's why we put it above that, where it's at, because where that sign is at, currently, it's above the living room on that corner unit. So, you know, nobody's in their bedroom, sort of thing, so we were trying to be mindful of that as well.
get more rent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tell you what, we'll look at it. I don't, it's a great,
Again, I think
we were looking vertically because during our submittals that we had signage on both sides and so forth, and one had a vertical there. So since we came up with this name, we just felt Mira looked better horizontally.
Makes sense.
As opposed to vertically.
I think it kind of does. I mean,
Yeah, if you try and picture with just,
yeah, and
So.
the font that you're using is
Yeah.
attractive, and I don't know
Yeah.
if that works as well for the content.
So just to give you an idea of where Mira came from, we've always hired a branding and logo firm that's helped us out with that and the branding of it, of this particular property. And they took a lot of the fabric of Monona itself, and just the font of it as well. So there's been some thought, but it just isn't something that we just came up out of thin air. It's a process that we went through, and Robert, majority owner of the property, and another partner of his, sat through the presentation of 5 different names and 5 different colors and all the 5 different fonts, and so it was a thought process to get it to this point. And we wanted something simple, we wanted something direct, and to a certain degree, we wanted something a little unique, so that people would identify with it. So just a little background about it.
Where does Mira mean?
I knew you were going to ask that.
You
Like,
led me to it.
It means like look, it's like Spanish for look. And it's in a couple of languages. It's got a couple of the words like look, and I can bring it out. I can tell you
That's
there's
good.
5 choices, and I left it laying around, and my wife saw it, told me I picked the wrong one. So, they were all similar, but I was like, I knew I should have thrown that away.
Yeah.
All right, anybody willing to make a motion? Susan's got it.
I would move approval with findings of fact and conditions of approval as written by staff.
All right. Second.
Second.
All right. Any additions, concerns? See none from the commission. You guys set? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hang on. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now congratulations.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, item 8, 1 through 5. Doug.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. The CDA is continuing discussions as it relates to the West Broadway project. The one being put forward by Galway, close to the top roll. Do expect that to be back to Plan Commission shortly in the coming meetings here. Next meeting, I received a submittal for the BMO redevelopment, the former BMO site now on Monona Drive, being put forward by the same developers as the board. So expect that for kind of pre-hearing for the GDP. Lots of elements in there, potential rezoning, CSM, and things like that. The proposal for multifamily housing going into that site.
All right.
And that'll be the 4:13 meeting.
Perfect. B, is there any questions or requests from the commission? All right, seeing none. Rob, we're on to number 9.
Move adjournment.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. Have fun, Chris.
Hey,
Thanks,
Chris, you're on vacation, is that what I hear?
It's our wedding anniversary. My wife loves tennis, so we went down to Miami for the Miami Open.
Yes.
God, I was worried that you were like